The Zephyrian High Council chamber hummed with anticipation as the crystalline beings arranged themselves in their ceremonial circle. Their translucent forms shimmered with bioluminescent patterns, each pulse representing thoughts flowing freely between their collective consciousness. For millennia, they had served as the galaxy's premier telepathic interrogators, capable of extracting the deepest secrets from any sentient species. Today's subject was different, a human. Captain Marcus Chen sat strapped to the neural interface chair, his weathered face showing no emotion despite the alien technology boring into his skull. The human vessel had been captured 3 cycles ago during a routine patrol of the Outer Rim, and the Zephyrians were eager to understand this new species that had somehow developed faster than light travel without their knowledge. "Begin the extraction," commanded High Telepath Veltar, her voice resonating directly in the minds of her subordinates. "This primitive species cannot possibly possess mental defenses against our abilities." The neural probe activated with a soft hum, and 12 Zephyrian minds linked together, forming a psychic net designed to capture and dissect every memory, every thought, every fear hidden within the human's consciousness. They dove deep, and immediately recoiled in horror. Where they expected to find the simple, linear thought patterns common to all known species, they instead encountered a maelstrom of chaos. Marcus's mind wasn't organized like theirs. It was a battlefield. Thousands of voices screamed simultaneously, childhood memories mixing with tactical assessments, song lyrics bleeding into mathematical equations, random conversations from decades past erupting alongside current worries about his daughters' college tuition. But that was just the surface. Deeper they went, and the true nightmare began. They witnessed Marcus reliving every embarrassing moment from his teenage years, while simultaneously calculating orbital mechanics and remembering his grandmother's cookie recipe. They saw him mentally rehearsing arguments he'd had 20 years ago, planning his next chess move against his ship's AI, and wondering if he'd left the coffee pot on, all at the same time. "By the void," gasped telepath Zixara, her bioluminescent form flickering with distress. "How does it function with this cacophony?" But worse was yet to come. They discovered that humans didn't just think, they imagined. Marcus's mind contained entire universes that didn't exist, fictional characters with complete backstories, imaginary conversations with people he'd never meet, elaborate fantasies about winning lottery tickets he'd never bought. The Zephyrians, beings of pure logic and shared consciousness, found themselves drowning in a sea of what-ifs and maybes. High Telepath Veltar pushed deeper, determined to find the human's secrets. She encountered Marcus's memories of human entertainment and nearly severed the connection in shock. Humans voluntarily exposed themselves to fictional scenarios designed to provoke fear, sadness, and anxiety for pleasure. They called it movies and books. The concept was so alien that several younger telepaths began convulsing. "Continue," Veltar commanded, though her own form was beginning to dim with exhaustion. They delved into Marcus's military training and found something that defied all understanding of survival instincts. Humans had deliberately programmed themselves to run toward danger, to sacrifice themselves for abstract concepts like honor and duty. They discovered Marcus's memories of basic training, where humans were systematically broken down and rebuilt to suppress their natural self-preservation in favor of collective survival. The Zephyrians, who had evolved beyond such primitive concepts eons ago, couldn't comprehend the deliberate cultivation of controlled insanity. But the true horror lay in Marcus's capacity for multitasking. While the telepaths were struggling to process one stream of his consciousness, they realized he was simultaneously running dozens of mental processes. He was analyzing their technology and planning an escape, composing a mental letter to his wife, trying to remember if he'd fed his cat before deployment, running through the periodic table for no apparent reason, humming a song that had been stuck in his head for 3 days, calculating the trajectory needed to ram their ship with his escape pod, wondering what was for dinner, reviewing emergency protocols, planning his retirement, and somehow, through it all, Maintaining perfect awareness of his current situation, telepath Nixel collapsed first, her crystalline form shattering as her mind tried to process the impossible contradiction of a brain that could hold competing ideas without cognitive dissonance. Humans, she realized in her final coherent thought, didn't just tolerate chaos, they thrived in it. The others began falling like dominoes. Zixara's consciousness fractured when she encountered Marcus's ability to feel contradictory emotions, simultaneously, missing his family while being excited about his mission, being terrified of death while charging into battle anyway. The concept of emotional paradox was incompatible with Zephyrian neural architecture. High telepath Veltar made one last desperate attempt to understand, pushing her consciousness into Marcus's most recent memories. She found him in the moments before capture, facing impossible odds against superior numbers and technology. Instead of fear or despair, she found something that broke her mind entirely. Marcus had been grinning. The human had looked at certain death and smiled, not from insanity or ignorance, but from a deep-seated human truth that the Zephyrians couldn't fathom. That sometimes, the best response to an impossible situation was dark humor and stubborn defiance. He had been composing sarcastic last words even as enemy fire rained down around him. The telepathic link shattered. When the emergency teams arrived, they found 12 catatonic Zephyrians and one perfectly calm human. Marcus had felt the entire psychic intrusion, had been aware of their presence in his mind, and had simply continued thinking normally. As the medical teams worked to stabilize the broken telepaths, Marcus turned to the nearest conscious Zephyrian. "Guard." "You know," he said conversationally, "you really should have asked permission first. That was incredibly rude." The guard's form pulsed with confusion. How do you function with such mental chaos?" Marcus shrugged. "What chaos? That was Tuesday for me. You should see my brain when I'm actually stressed." The Zephyrian High Council, upon recovering, immediately classified humans as a Class X cognitive hazard and established a galaxy-wide quarantine around Earth. The official report simply stated, "Neural architecture incompatible with telepathic species. Approach with extreme caution." What it didn't mention was that 3 of the telepaths had retired to meditation colonies, 2 had requested memory wipes, and High Telepath Veltar had begun seeing a therapist. Marcus Chen was released unharmed, his ship fully fueled, and given a formal apology along with a written promise that no alien species would ever attempt telepathic contact with humans again. As he piloted his ship back toward human space, Marcus chuckled to himself and began planning how to explain this to his commanding officer. Somewhere in the back of his mind, he was already wondering what his wife had made for dinner, whether the Cubs had won their game, and if he had time to stop for coffee. Just another Tuesday in the human brain. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Sometimes the most dangerous weapon isn't technology or telepathy. It's a mind so chaotic that it breaks anyone foolish enough to look inside.